The stars looked different from this side of the galaxy. Lieutenant Commander Jack Thompson stood alone on the observation deck of the dangerous Ship Academy's flagship vessel, the DSV Horizon. His dark eyes reflected the swirling purple and blue gases of the Veil Nebula that stretched before them like an ocean of cosmic fire. Jack checked his watch. 10 minutes until the cadets arrived. 10 minutes of peace before he had to face their doubtful looks again. Being the only human instructor at the Academy wasn't easy. Humans were still newcomers to the Galactic Alliance, and many species questioned whether humans belonged at the Academy at all. Jack had proven himself over the years, but the whispers never completely stopped. The door to the observation deck slid open with a soft hiss. Admiral Krell entered, ducking his tall, blue-skinned head under the doorframe. The four-armed Alterian commander of the Academy moved with surprising grace despite his massive size. Lost in thought again, Thompson? Krell's voice rumbled like distant thunder. Jack straightened his uniform. Just preparing for today's challenge, sir. The Void Run. Krell's yellow eyes narrowed. You know I had to fight the board to allow your cadet to participate. Jack knew exactly which cadet Krell meant. Tom Reed, the second human ever admitted to the Academy, and the only human in this year's senior class. Tom is ready, sir. His simulator scores. Simulators are not reality. Krell cut him off. The Void Run has claimed the lives of cadets with natural armor, backup organs, and minds that can process 1,000 variables per second. Your human has none of these advantages. Jack met the Admiral's gaze. He has other strengths. Krell made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a grunt. We shall see. The ship's announcement system chimed. All senior cadets report to the bridge for Void Run briefing. All senior cadets to the bridge. It's time. Krell turned to leave. This year I've made a change to the traditional run. No predetermined pathways. Real-time variables only. Jack felt his stomach tighten. Sir, that's never been done before. Krell paused at the door. The galaxy doesn't give us predetermined pathways, Thompson. It's time these cadets face true chaos. The bridge of the horizon buzzed with nervous energy as 15 senior cadets stood at attention. They represented the best young officers from 12 different species across the Alliance. Each cadet wore the distinctive silver uniform of the Academy, but their appearances couldn't have been more different. Cadet Lox, a Naran with sleek green skin and four-lobed brain structure, stood perfectly still. Norans were famous for their photographic spatial awareness. Next to him, Cadet Vera of the Trill flexed her heat-resistant hands. Her species had evolved on a world of active volcanoes. At the end of the line stood Tom Reed. Average height. Average build. No special features or evolutionary advantages. Just a human from Earth Colony Theta with determined eyes and a slight, nervous smile. Jack stood beside Krell as the Admiral addressed the cadets. The Void Run is not just a test. It is the test, Krell said. For 3 generations it has separated those who merely study space from those who understand it. You will navigate the horizon through the most dangerous section of the Veil Nebula, a region filled with gravitational anomalies, radiation storms, and phenomena science cannot yet explain. Krell's 4 arms gestured to the main view screen, showing the churning nebula ahead. Previous classes navigated along charted routes with predictable challenges. This year will be different. Krell's yellow eyes scanned the cadets. You will face the true nature of space. Unpredictable, wild, and caring nothing for your survival. Several cadets exchanged worried glances. Jack noticed Tom's back straighten slightly. Each of you will rotate through bridge positions during the 3-day journey. Your final Academy evaluation depends on your performance. Krell's gaze lingered on Tom. Some believe certain species are better suited to space than others. This is your chance to prove your worth, whatever your biology. The message wasn't subtle. Many in the Academy believed humans were too fragile, too simple for deep space service. The Void Run would either validate or destroy that belief. 6 hours into the Void Run, Jack watched from the back of the bridge as Tom took his first shift at the auxiliary control station. The main positions were assigned to cadets with specialized abilities. Lox handled primary navigation, his four-lobed brain processing navigational data with remarkable speed. Vera monitored the increasingly unstable reactor core, her heat-resistant body allowing her to work near systems that would cook most species. Tom's station was considered the least critical, a place to put the cadet least likely to make a difference in an emergency. Approaching first radiation wave, announced Lox. Impact in 30 seconds. Krell, observing from the command chair, nodded. Shields to maximum. Brace for impact. The horizon shuddered as the first wave struck. Warning lights flashed across every console. Radiation levels at 200% of projected values, reported Vera, her orange skin glistening with protective oils. This isn't matching any of the simulation parameters. I told you, Krell said calmly. Real chaos, not programmed scenarios. Jack moved closer to Tom's station. The young human's fingers flew across his console, making tiny adjustments to power distribution as the radiation bombarded the ship. You're compensating for shield imbalance, Jack noted quietly. Good instinct. Tom nodded without looking up. The radiation isn't uniform. It's stronger on our port side, but our shields are balanced equally. We're wasting power on the starboard shields. Jack smiled slightly. This was what humans did best. Spotted patterns others missed and adapted quickly. The ship lurched, suddenly as it encountered a gravitational pocket. Several cadets grabbed their stations for support. Unknown gravitational anomaly, Lox reported, his usual calm voice rising slightly. It wasn't on any of the charts. Of course it wasn't, Krell replied. The nebula is constantly changing. Adjust course. Jack watched the alien cadets respond with their specialized abilities. Lox's eyes moved independently, each tracking different data streams. Vera's body temperature rose visibly as she channeled excess heat from overloading systems, each using the evolutionary advantages their species had developed over millions of years. And then there was Tom. No special abilities, no enhanced senses. Just focus, determination, and that uniquely human quality that Jack recognized from his own academy days. The ability to sense patterns in chaos that sometimes even the most advanced computers missed. As the ship stabilized, Krell made his way to auxiliary control. Cadet Reed, he said, his voice neutral. Your assessment of the situation? Tom looked up, momentarily surprised to be addressed directly by the Admiral. Sir, the nebula's electromagnetic field is affecting our sensor calibration. We're getting false readings because we're trying to scan through the interference rather than using it as a navigation guide. Krell's head tilted slightly. Explain. The interference has patterns, sir. If we recalibrate to read those patterns instead of fighting them, we could map the nebula's currents more effectively. The bridge fell silent. It was an unorthodox suggestion that contradicted standard navigation protocols. Krell considered for a moment, then nodded. Proceed with recalibration. As Tom adjusted the sensor array, Jack felt a swell of pride. This was what he'd been trying to explain to the Academy Board for years. Humans might lack the specialized adaptations of other species, but they possessed something just as valuable. The ability to see connections where others saw only chaos. The ship's sensors flickered, then stabilized with new clarity. Sensor range increased by 22%, Lox announced, surprise evident in his voice. The human's adjustment worked. Tom didn't smile at the backhanded compliment. He was already focused on the next challenge as the horizon pushed deeper into the nebula, the real dangers still ahead. The first day of the Void Run was ending. The true test was just beginning. The second day of the Void Run began with warning alarms. Radiation spike, Cadet Vera called out, her orange skin darkening as her body absorbed the excess heat from her station. Coming from Sector 7-9. On the main view screen, the yaw, purple gases of the nebula churned violently. A bright flash erupted from deep within the cosmic cloud. Solar flare, Admiral Krell said calmly from the command chair. Earlier than expected. Lieutenant Commander Jack Thompson watched the cadets scramble to their stations. This was the moment that separated good officers from great ones, how they responded to the unexpected. Cadet Lox took the main navigation controls, his four-lobed brain processing spatial data faster than any computer. Vera managed the rapidly overheating reactor core. The other alien cadets assumed their specialized positions based on their unique physiological advantages. And Tom Reed, the lone human cadet, was once again assigned to auxiliary control, the least critical station. Jack caught Tom's eye and gave a small nod of encouragement. The young human straightened his shoulders and focused on his console. The ship shuddered as the first wave of radiation struck the shields. "Shield integrity at 87%, reported Lox, his green skin glistening under the red alert lights. "Compensating. Reactor temperature rising," Vera added. "The radiation is intensifying faster than projected models." Admiral Krell's yellow eyes narrowed. "This is why we train in reality, not simulations. Space doesn't follow our models." The ship rocked more violently as a second, stronger wave hit. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Shield integrity dropping to 62%, Lox called out, his normally calm voice edged with concern. "Unknown variables affecting shield harmonics." "We need to adjust our course," suggested Cadet Malk, a tall, thin Zorian with triple-jointed limbs. "Move away from the radiation source." "Negative," Krell responded. "The mission parameters require traversing this sector." Jack moved closer to Tom's station. The human cadet was working quietly, his fingers moving across his console with careful precision. "What are you thinking?" Jack asked softly. Tom didn't look up. "The radiation isn't random. There's a pattern to the waves, like ripples in water. If we can predict the pattern—" Another violent shake interrupted him as the third radiation wave struck. This one was much stronger. "Shield integrity at 41%, Lox shouted. "Main deflector array showing signs of failure." Krell stood from his command chair. "Reroute power from non-essential systems to the shields." "Already done, sir," Vera replied, her body now glowing with absorbed heat. "It's not enough." The ship lurched sideways as part of the shield grid failed. Several cadets were thrown from their stations. Emergency lighting kicked in as primary power fluctuated. "We're being pulled toward a gravity well," Lox reported, his four eyes blinking rapidly as he processed the incoming data. "Navigation systems failing." Jack watched as panic began to spread among the cadets. Even with their specialized abilities, the situation was overwhelming them. Lox's multiple brains were struggling to process the cascade of system failures. Vera's heat resistance was reaching its limit as the radiation intensified. Only Tom seemed strangely calm, working methodically. At auxiliary control, "Main computer failing," announced the ship's automated system. "Switching to backup processors." "We're flying blind," Malk said, his triple-jointed fingers struggling to maintain control of his station. "Sensors can't penetrate this level of radiation." Admiral Krell's face remained impassive, but Jack knew this wasn't part of the planned exercise. The Void Run was dangerous, but not suicidal. Something unexpected was happening in the nebula. "Recommend emergency withdrawal from the nebula," suggested Lox, abandoning the standard training protocols. "Plotting fastest exit route." "That's not an option," Krell replied firmly. "The radiation would overtake us before we could clear the nebula boundary." "Sir," Tom's voice cut through the chaos, steady and clear, "I have a suggestion." All eyes turned to the human cadet at the auxiliary station. "The auxiliary sensors are still partially functional," Tom explained. "They're older models, less sophisticated but more radiation-hardened. I can use them to map a route through the radiation waves." Krell's expression was skeptical. "Those sensors have less than 20% the range of our main array." "I don't need range," Tom replied. "I need timing. The radiation waves follow a pattern, like music. If we navigate between the beats—" "That's impossible," interrupted Cadet Malk. "No one can predict chaotic radiation patterns from a solar flare." "It's not entirely chaotic," Tom insisted. There's a rhythm to it. I've been tracking it since the first wave hit. Jack stepped forward. Sir, I recommend we let Cadet Reed try. Krell studied the human cadet with his intense yellow eyes. You understand what you're suggesting? If you're wrong, the ship breaks apart and everyone dies. Tom nodded, his face serious but determined. Yes, sir, I understand. The ship shook again as another radiation wave struck. A console exploded in a shower of sparks, sending a Drexian cadet tumbling to the floor. Main shields failing, Vera reported, her voice strained as her body absorbed dangerous levels of heat. We have minutes at most. Krell was silent for a long moment, weighing impossible options. Finally, he nodded toward Tom. Take the main helm, Cadet Reed. Show us this pattern you see. Locke stepped aside, his expression showing clear doubt as Tom took the navigator's position. The human cadet quickly reconfigured the controls, linking the auxiliary sensors to the main helm. I need all power diverted to engines and the remaining shields, Tom said, his voice now carrying the authority of someone in command. No power to non-essential systems. Do it, ordered Krell. The bridge darkened as lighting dimmed to emergency levels. The view screen flickered but remained operational, showing the violent swirling nebula ahead. Tom's hands hovered over the controls, his eyes fixed on the sensor readings that no one else could interpret. The next wave comes in 5 seconds, he said quietly. Then there's a gap we need to move exactly when I say. Jack held his breath. The other cadets watched in tense silence. Now, Tom shouted, and his hands flew across the controls. The horizon lurched forward, accelerating directly toward what looked like the most dangerous part of the radiation storm. Several cadets gasped. Krell's 4 hands gripped the arms of his command chair. The radiation wave passed just behind them, missing the ship by meters. Another wave, 12 seconds, Tom called out, not taking his eyes from the sensors. Preparing to change course. How is he doing this? Locke asked, watching Tom's hands move across the controls in an almost rhythmic pattern. He's not calculating it, Jack explained quietly. He's feeling it. Impossible, Malk muttered. No one can feel radiation patterns. Humans can, Jack replied. They evolved on a world of unpredictable weather, natural disasters, and daily threats. They developed something beyond logic, intuition, the ability to sense patterns too complex to calculate. Tom continued guiding the ship through the radiation storm, making subtle course changes seconds before each wave hit. His movements weren't the precise, calculated adjustments of the alien cadets. They were fluid, almost like a dance, matching the chaotic rhythm of the nebula itself. It's working, Vera said in amazement as the radiation levels began to stabilize around the ship. Admiral Krell watched silently, his yellow eyes never leaving the human cadet. As the horizon emerged from the worst of the radiation storm, the immediate danger passed. The bridge crew let out a collective breath, but their relief was short-lived. A massive warning alarm sounded. Gravitational anomaly detected, announced the ship's computer. Massive distortion ahead. On the view screen, the nebula seemed to fold in on itself. A swirling vortex of cosmic gases formed directly in their path. What is that? Asked Malk, his triple-jointed fingers trembling slightly. Tom looked up from the helm, his face pale but determined. That's the heart of the storm, sir, and we're heading straight for it. The bridge of the DSV horizon fell silent as all eyes fixed on the swirling vortex ahead. The gravitational anomaly twisted the purple gases of the nebula into a spiral that seemed to pull everything toward its center. Full stop, ordered Admiral Krell, his blue skin looking almost gray under the emergency lights. All power to reverse thrusters. Tom's hands remained on the navigation controls. Sir, we can't stop in time. The gravitational pull is already affecting our course. Can we go around it? Asked Cadet Malk, his triple-jointed fingers nervously tapping his console. Cadet Lox, the Noran with 4 brain lobes, shook his head. Negative. The anomaly's gravitational field extends beyond our sensor range. We cannot calculate a safe bypass. Kraut! Lieutenant Commander Jack Thompson moved to stand beside Tom at the helm. "What do you see?" he asked quietly. Tom's eyes never left the sensor readouts. "It's not just pulling us in, it's pulsing like a heartbeat." He looked up at the massive vortex on the view screen. I think we can ride it." "Ride a gravitational anomaly?" Vera asked incredulously, her orange skin still glowing with absorbed heat. "That defies all safety protocols." Admiral Krell stepped closer, his yellow eyes studying the human cadet with newfound interest. "Explain, Cadet Reed." Tom took a deep breath. "The anomaly isn't constant. It pulses at regular intervals, expanding and contracting. If we time our approach to match these pulses, we can use the gravitational waves to slingshot around its perimeter. That would require split-second timing," Lox calculated, his 4 brain lobes working in parallel. A difference of 0.3 seconds would tear the ship apart. "I can time it," Tom said with quiet confidence. Krell looked at Jack. "Your assessment, Lieutenant Commander?" Jack met the Admiral's gaze steadily. "In my experience, sir, when a human says they can feel something like this, it's best to listen." The ship shuddered as the gravitational forces increased. Warning lights flashed across multiple stations. "Hull integrity decreasing," reported Vera. "We need to decide now." "Admiral," Krell stood tall, his forearms clasped behind his back. For a moment he seemed to be weighing not just their survival, but everything he'd believed about species and their capabilities. "Proceed, Cadet Reed," he finally ordered. "Show us what humans can do." Tom nodded and turned to the helm. His fingers danced across the controls, but not with the calculated precision of the alien cadets. His movements followed a rhythm only he could sense, the pulse of the gravitational anomaly. "First pulse coming in 5 seconds, he announced. "Everyone brace yourselves." The ship lurched forward, accelerating toward the edge of the vortex. Several cadets gasped in alarm. Even Lox's normally impassive face showed fear. "Gravitational forces at 300% of safe levels," Vera called out. "Structural integrity field is straining." The horizon began to vibrate violently as it approached, the edge of the anomaly. Metal groaned throughout the ship. On the view screen, the swirling purple gases looked like a massive whirlpool ready to swallow them. Tom's face showed intense concentration, but not fear. His hands moved across the controls in an almost flowing motion, like a musician playing an instrument. When he spoke, his voice was calm. "The pulse is coming. Now." He suddenly changed course, turning the ship to align perfectly with the expanding wave of gravitational energy. Instead of fighting against it, the horizon rode along its edge, using the tremendous force to accelerate around the vortex. The ship screamed in protest but held together. Warning systems blared across the bridge as the G-forces exceeded safety parameters. "It's working," Jack shouted over the noise. "We're riding the wave." On their stations, the alien cadets watched in amazement as Tom guided the ship through what should have been impossible maneuvers. He wasn't calculating every move. There wasn't time for that. He was feeling the rhythm of the anomaly and matching it with instinctive adjustments. "Second pulse in 8 seconds, Tom called out. "This one will be stronger." Lox moved to the station beside Tom, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "The sensor data doesn't support your prediction. How can you know the second pulse will be stronger?" "I can feel it," Tom replied simply. "The pattern is building." Lox looked confused, but Admiral Krell's expression had changed from skepticism to fascination. "What Lieutenant Commander Thompson said earlier," Krell noted, "about humans and chaos. You're demonstrating it now, aren't you?" Tom nodded, still focused on his controls. "My species evolved on a planet with unpredictable weather, patterns, natural disasters, and thousands of daily threats. We learned to sense danger before instruments could detect it, to feel changes in air pressure before storms arrived, to hear subtle sounds that warned of predators." The ship shuddered again as the second pulse hit, stronger, just as Tom had predicted. He adjusted course perfectly, riding the gravitational wave like a surfer on an ocean. Remarkable, Krell murmured. While other species developed specialized adaptations, humans developed a relationship with chaos itself. We never conquered chaos, Jack added. We learned to dance with it. As Tom continued guiding the ship around the vortex, something unexpected began to happen. The alien cadets started to adapt their approach to match Tom's. Lox, with his four-lobed brain, stopped trying to calculate every variable and instead focused on the rhythm Tom had identified. Vera abandoned her species' rigid heat exchange protocols and adopted a more fluid approach to managing the reactor core. I think I can sense it too, Locke said suddenly. Not calculate it, feel it, like music. Yes, Tom encouraged, not taking his eyes from the controls. Don't fight the chaos, move with it. A third gravitational pulse hit, the strongest yet. This time, Lox called it out a split second before Tom. Pulse incoming! Together, the human and the Norin adjusted the ship's course, working in harmony rather than by procedure. Vera joined them, her heat management flowing with the ship's changing needs rather than following standard protocols. Admiral Krell watched this transformation with growing amazement. They're all becoming more human. Not exactly, Jack corrected with a smile. They're remembering something their species engineered away generations ago, the ability to trust instinct along with logic, to find patterns in chaos. As the horizon completed its arc around the gravitational anomaly, the immediate danger passed. The ship emerged on the far side of the vortex, battered but intact. The bridge crew erupted in cheers. Cadets who had doubted the human now looked at Tom with new respect. Tom leaned back in his chair, exhausted, but smiling. For the first time, since joining the academy, he felt he had truly belonged. Admiral Krell approached the helm station. The massive Altarian looked down at the human cadet with his intense yellow eyes. In all my years at the academy, Krell said, his deep voice carrying across the now quiet bridge, I have never seen navigation like that. Thank you, sir, Tom replied simply. No, Cadet Reed. Thank you. The Admiral's expression became thoughtful. We've been teaching space navigation wrong all these years. Jack stepped forward. Sir? We've emphasized technological solutions and specialized biological advantages, Krell explained. But today I saw something more fundamental. The ability to sense, to feel, to connect with the chaos of space itself. The ship's computer interrupted with a warning tone. Approaching Sector 742. Multiple radiation pockets detected. The moment of celebration ended as everyone turned back to their stations. They were still deep in the nebula with many dangers ahead. But something had changed. The alien cadets now looked to Tom with respect rather than doubt. Even Lox, the top student of the class, nodded to the human. I believe, Lox said, that the heart of the nebula has more to teach us. Tom nodded, his hands returning to the controls. And we're ready to learn. As the horizon moved deeper into the unknown, Admiral Krell moved to stand beside Jack. The heart of the human, the Admiral said quietly. I'm beginning to understand. Jack smiled as he watched Tom work alongside the alien cadets, all of them now finding harmony with the chaos around them. That's all we ever wanted, sir. A chance to show what humanity can contribute to the stars. Ahead of them, the nebula, churned with new dangers. But they would face them together, with both logic and intuition, calculation and feeling, the best of all their species combined. 16 hours had passed since the horizon survived the gravitational vortex. The ship pushed deeper into the nebula, following the path of the Void Run. But this was no longer just a training exercise. It had become a genuine fight for survival. Lieutenant. Commander Jack Thompson watched from the back of the bridge as Cadet Tom Reed continued to guide the ship through the chaotic maze of radiation storms and gravitational eddies. The human cadet had been at the helm for nearly 12 hours straight, refusing to take breaks even when Admiral Krell ordered him to rest. You need sleep, Cadet Reed, Krell said, his forearms crossed over his massive chest. Tom's eyes remained fixed on his controls. "I'm fine, sir. The patterns are changing. I need to stay with them." Jack moved closer to Tom's station. He could see the exhaustion in the young man's face, but also the determination. This was something Jack had seen in humans throughout his career, the ability to push beyond physical limits when necessary. "The nebula is becoming more unstable," reported Cadet Locks from the science station. The Naran had adapted his approach, using his four-lobed brain not just to calculate variables but to sense patterns as Tom did. "There's a major disturbance forming ahead." On the main view screen, the swirling purple gases darkened to an angry red. Lightning-like energy discharges flashed across the cosmic storm. "That doesn't match any known nebula behavior," Vera noted, her orange skin still glowing faintly from absorbed radiation. "It's almost like it's reacting to us," Tom finished her thought. Like an immune system responding to an invader. The bridge fell silent as everyone considered this strange idea. Could a nebula be somehow alive, or at least reactive in ways science hadn't recognized? "Speculation without evidence is useless," Cadet Malk said dismissively. Despite the events of the past day, the triple-jointed Zorian remained skeptical of Tom's intuitive approach. "Not useless," Admiral Krell corrected. "Sometimes imagination leads where science hasn't yet reached." He turned to Tom. "If the nebula is reacting to our presence, how do we respond?" Before Tom could answer, the ship lurched violently. "Warning." Alarms blared across the bridge. "Massive energy surge," Locks called out. "Coming from all directions. Shields failing," added Vera. "Power grid overloading." The lights on the bridge flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. Emergency lighting came on a moment later, casting everything in an eerie red glow. "Main power grid has collapsed," reported the ship's computer in a flat voice. "Switching to emergency reserves. Estimated power remaining, 4 hours at minimal usage." Admiral Krell stood from his command chair. "Status report. Life support stable but on backup systems," Vera replied. "Engines at 20% capacity. Navigation systems offline, communications offline." "We're dead in space," Malk said, his voice tight with fear. Jack looked at Tom, who had gone very still at the helm. The cadet's eyes were closed, his hands resting lightly on the dead controls. "Tom?" Jack asked quietly. "I can still feel it," Tom said without opening his eyes. "The nebula, it's listening." "That's absurd," Malk snapped. "We need real solutions, not human mysticism." Admiral Krell raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "Let him speak." Tom opened his eyes. "The nebula reacted when we tried to force our way through using shields and engines. But what if we tried something different? What if we stopped fighting against it and simply listened back? Listened to a nebula?" Malk's skepticism was clear. "With what? Our ears?" "With the ship itself," Tom replied. "Every system on this vessel can act as a sensor, not just the dedicated scanning arrays, but everything. Hull plating, engine harmonics, even the vibrations in the support struts." Jack nodded slowly, understanding what Tom was suggesting. "You want to turn the entire ship into one big passive sensor?" "Yes," Tom confirmed. "No active scans, no powerful engines pushing against the nebula's currents, just feeling what's around us." Admiral Krell considered the idea. His yellow eyes studied Tom carefully. "And if we do this, what next? We still need to navigate. Once we understand the nebula's patterns, we can move with them instead of against them," Tom explained, "like swimming with a current instead of fighting it." Locks stepped forward, his green skin reflecting the red emergency lights. "I believe I can modify our sensor arrays to function passively as Cadet Reed suggests. But without active sensors, navigation would be—" "We'll navigate by sight," Tom said. The bridge fell silent again. Navigate by sight? In a nebula so dense that even advanced sensors struggled to penetrate it? "That's impossible," Malk insisted. "No one can visually interpret nebula currents." "Humans can," Jack countered. It's an ancient technique called dead reckoning, navigating by visual cues and intuition. Sailors on Earth used it to cross entire oceans before they had any technology at all. Admiral Krell looked from Jack to Tom, then made his decision. Proceed, Cadet Reed. Show us this human technique. For the next hour, the bridge crew worked to reconfigure the ship's systems. Lox reprogrammed the sensors to passive mode, while Vera shut down all non-essential systems to conserve power. Tom worked with Jack to prepare for visual navigation. I'll need the main view screen at maximum clarity, Tom requested. And I need to be able to see out of the actual viewport, not just sensor feeds. Admiral Krell ordered the bridge's physical shutters to be opened, revealing reinforced windows that looked directly out into space. For the first time, the cadets saw the nebula with their own eyes, not through sensors and computer enhancements. The view was breathtaking. Swirls of purple, red, and blue gas formed patterns of incredible beauty. Energy discharges like lightning illuminated vast cloud structures. The nebula seemed alive with movement and color. It's beautiful, whispered Vera, momentarily forgetting the danger they were in. Tom stood before the viewport, his eyes taking in the cosmic display. The currents are visible if you know what to look for. See how the gases flow there? He pointed to a swirling pattern. That's a path we can follow. Lox joined him at the viewport, his four eyes blinking in sequence. I see it too. The density. Variations indicate a stable corridor. One by one, the other cadets gathered at the viewport. Even Malk reluctantly admitted he could see patterns in the swirling gases. This is how humans navigated for thousands of years, Jack explained to Admiral Krell, as they watched the cadets work together. Before computers, before even basic instruments, they used the stars, the wind, the movement of ocean currents, finding patterns in what seemed like chaos to guide them home. Krell nodded slowly. And now we use that ancient skill to navigate the stars themselves. There is wisdom in this approach we have forgotten in our rush to technological solutions. With the ship's systems reconfigured, Tom took his position at the helm. The controls were now set for manual operation. No computer assistance, no automated course corrections. Everything would depend on human judgment and intuition. Power up engines to 15%, Tom ordered. Just enough to give us maneuverability without disturbing the nebula. Engines at 15%, confirmed Vera. We're ready. Tom took a deep breath and placed his hands on the controls. His eyes moved between the viewport and the view screen, reading the nebula's patterns. Beginning manual navigation, he announced, "Everyone stay quiet. I need to concentrate." The bridge fell silent as Tom guided the horizon forward. His movements were smooth and subtle, tiny adjustments that kept the ship aligned with the natural flow of the nebula gases. He wasn't fighting against the cosmic storm. He was becoming part of it. Slowly, steadily, the ship began to move through the nebula. The violent energy reactions that had disabled their systems didn't return. Instead, the swirling gases seemed to part before them, creating a natural pathway. "It's working," Locke said in amazement. "The nebula is accepting us." Admiral Krell watched with growing respect as the human cadet navigated by sight and feeling what the most advanced sensors in the galaxy had failed to map. After an hour of successful navigation, he moved to stand beside Jack. "The heart of the human," Krell said quietly. "It's not a physical adaptation or a technological advantage. It's this connection to chaos, this ability to find meaning where our computers see only random data." Jack nodded. "That's what Earth gave us, a world so unpredictable and challenging that we had to develop something beyond logic to survive." The horizon continued its journey through the heart of the nebula. The alien cadets began to understand something profound about their human classmate. His species' greatest strength wasn't exceptional in any way their cultures would recognize. It was exceptional in its very ordinariness, in its ancient relationship with the unpredictable universe. And as they learned from Tom, watching him navigate by sight and intuition, they began to rediscover something their own species had engineered away generations ago: the ability to see with more than eyes, to hear with more than ears, to find patterns in chaos itself. The journey was far from over, but something had changed forever aboard the dangerous Ship Academy's training vessel. Human and alien were learning from each other, combining the best of technology and intuition, calculation and feeling. The heart of the human was teaching them all a new way to see the stars. The DSV Horizon emerged from the Veil Nebula 3 days after entering it. The ship was battered, with scorch marks along its hull, and several systems still offline. But it was intact, and every cadet on board was alive. Lieutenant Commander Jack Thompson stood on the observation deck watching as the last wisps of purple gas faded behind them, replaced by the clear blackness of open space. Stars shone bright and steady, no longer distorted by the nebula's chaotic energies. The door slid open, and Admiral Krell entered. The massive Altarian commander looked tired but satisfied. "We made it," Jack said simply. Krell nodded, his yellow eyes gazing out at the stars. "Against all probability, the most dangerous void run in Academy history. Because of Tom," Jack added, "because of what he showed everyone." "Indeed." Krell clasped his 4 hands behind his back. "The Academy Board is meeting as we speak, reviewing the data from our journey. They've requested my presence and yours when we dock at Central Station." Jack turned to face the Admiral. "Are they concerned about your decision to let a human cadet take command during a crisis?" Krell's mouth twitched in what might have been a smile. "Quite the opposite, Lieutenant Commander. They're reconsidering several fundamental aspects of our training program." 2 days later, the Horizon docked at Dangerous Ship Academy's Central Station. The massive space facility orbited a gas giant at the edge of Alliance space, its gleaming towers and observation domes housing the most elite training center in the galaxy. In the Academy's main auditorium, all 15 senior cadets stood at attention in their silver uniforms. Before them sat the Academy Board, 12 senior officers representing the founding species of the Galactic Alliance. Admiral Krell stood beside the podium, with Jack Thompson at his side. The auditorium was filled with hundreds of junior cadets, Academy staff, and even several ambassadors from Alliance worlds. Word of the Horizon's journey through the Veil Nebula had spread quickly. The board's chairperson, a tall Seraphian with translucent skin that showed her flowing nervous system, stood to address the assembly. "Cadets of the Dangerous Ship Academy," she began, her voice resonating throughout the hall. "Today we honor your successful completion of the Void Run, what history will record as the most challenging training mission ever undertaken by this institution." Applause echoed through the auditorium. The senior cadets remained at attention, though pride showed clearly on their faces. "Admiral Krell has submitted his complete report," the chairperson continued. "It details not only the extraordinary dangers you faced, but the equally extraordinary means by which you overcame them." Her glowing eyes turned to Tom Reed, who stood beside Lox in the front row. "Cadet Reed, please step forward." Tom took 2 steps forward, standing alone before the board. He looked small compared to the alien officials towering over him, but his back was straight and his eyes clear. "The board has reviewed the ship's logs and sensor data," the chairperson said. "We have studied the unconventional methods you employed to navigate the nebula when all standard procedures and technology failed." Tom stood silent, waiting. In the history of this academy, no cadet has ever been awarded the Star of Navigation before graduation. The chairperson lifted a small box from the podium. Inside glittered a silver medallion in the shape of a star, with a blue crystal at its center. Today that changes. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the audience. The Star of Navigation was one of the highest honors in the Alliance, usually given only to captains with decades of service. "Your actions demonstrated something this academy has overlooked for too long," the chairperson said as she placed the medallion around Tom's neck. "Navigation is not merely about technology or even specialized biological advantages. It is about understanding, truly understanding, one's relationship with space itself." Tom accepted the honor with a small bow. "Thank you, chairperson. But I couldn't have done it alone." Every cadet on that bridge contributed to our survival. The chairperson nodded. A human response. Looking beyond individual achievement to the collective effort, she turned to address the full assembly again. Which brings me to the board's second announcement. She gestured to Admiral Krell, who stepped forward. Effective immediately, Krell announced, the Academy curriculum will be expanded to include a new required course for all cadets. He paused, his yellow eyes finding Jack in the crowd. It will be called Intuitive Navigation and Chaos Theory, and it will be taught by Lieutenant Commander Thompson. Jack felt a surge of pride, not for himself but for what this meant. After years of trying to convince the Academy that humans had something valuable to contribute, they were finally being heard. Krell continued. For too long we have emphasized technological solutions and specialized biological adaptations. We engineered ourselves toward logical precision and away from the chaotic intuition that helped our species evolve in the first place. He gestured toward Tom. What Cadet Reed demonstrated wasn't just courage or quick thinking. It was a fundamentally different relationship with chaos, one we must all learn from. The auditorium erupted in applause again. Jack noticed that the loudest cheers came from the alien cadets who had served on the horizon during the Void Run. They had experienced firsthand the value of Tom's approach. After the ceremony, Jack found Tom standing alone by a viewport, looking out at the gas giant the station orbited. The star of navigation glinted on his chest. Congratulations, Cadet, Jack said, joining him at the viewport. Tom smiled. I still can't believe it. The first human to receive the star. You earned it. Jack placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. More importantly, you changed minds. That's not easy to do in the Alliance. What will you teach them? Tom asked. In your new course? Jack looked out at the swirling storms visible in the gas giant's atmosphere. Beautiful patterns formed from cosmic chaos, not unlike the nebula they had navigated. That the greatest strength isn't found in extraordinary abilities or specialized adaptations, Jack said thoughtfully. It's found in the ordinary, in the generalist approach to survival that humans represent. When all logical systems fail, when specialized functions break down, we fall back on something more fundamental, the ability to recognize patterns in chaos, to find meaning where none should exist, and to improvise solutions that defy conventional understanding. Tom nodded. The heart of the human. Exactly. Jack smiled. Not exceptional in any specific way, but exceptional in its very ordinariness. 1 month later, Jack Thompson stood before his first class of Intuitive Navigation and Chaos Theory. The lecture hall was filled beyond capacity, with cadets from every species in the Alliance eager to learn the human approach to space. To his surprise, in the back row sat Admiral Krell and 3 members of the Academy Board, there to observe the historic first lesson. Before we begin, Jack said, looking out at the diverse faces, I want to share something with you. He activated the room's holographic display. Above the center of the hall appeared a swirling visualization of the Veil Nebula, reconstructed from the horizon's sensor data. What do you see? He asked the class. Dozens of hands rose. Jack called on a young Noran cadet. A chaotic collection of gases and energy patterns, sir, the cadet answered confidently. Jack nodded. That's what our sensors see. That's what our computers calculate. He touched a control, and the image changed subtly. Now flow lines appeared in the chaos, highlighting currents and patterns invisible to casual observation. But this is what a human sees, Jack continued. Not because our eyes are special. They're actually quite limited compared to many of yours. But because our minds evolved to find patterns in chaos, to see connections where none are obvious. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of cadets from a dozen worlds. The greatest explorers in Earth's history didn't have advanced technology. They had something more fundamental, the ability to read the stars, the winds, the ocean currents, to sense patterns too subtle for instruments to detect, to trust instinct alongside logic. Jack smiled as he saw genuine interest in the alien faces. Even Admiral Krell leaned forward in his seat. That's what I'll teach you in this course. Not to abandon your technology or your unique biological advantages, but to complement them with something humans have carried since we first looked up at the stars: the ability to see order in chaos, to find our way when all else fails. He gestured to the nebula hologram spinning slowly above them. The universe isn't just equations and predictable forces. It's alive with patterns and rhythms that can't always be calculated. They must be felt. That's the heart of the human approach to space. And now, it's my honor to share it with all of you. As Jack began his first lesson, he thought of Tom Reed, now serving as a junior navigator on an Alliance exploratory vessel. The young cadet had opened a door that could never be closed again, a new understanding between humans and the galaxy. The heart of the human was finally taking its place among the stars,